The black Chevy Tahoe was 3 car lengths back, exactly where it had been for the last 4 miles. To anyone else, it was just traffic on a rainy Tuesday morning in suburban Virginia. To Sarah, it was a mistake. She checked the rear-view mirror again, her eyes narrowing slightly behind her wire-rimmed glasses. She didn't speed up. She didn't panic. She simply adjusted her grip on the steering wheel of her beat-up Volvo station wagon and signaled a right turn into a residential subdivision that wasn't on her route to Northwood High. The Tahoe followed. "Amateurs," she whispered, her voice devoid of emotion. But as she watched the vehicle execute the turn, she noted the precision. They didn't cut the corner. They maintained a tactical distance, avoiding the blind spot, but staying close enough to react if she bolted. This wasn't a jealous ex-boyfriend or a disgruntled parent upset about a failing grade. This was standard operating procedure for a federal surveillance team. She tapped the brakes, a brake check, not to cause an accident, but to see the reaction time. The Tahoe's nose dipped instantly, maintaining the gap. Professional. Sarah's heart rate didn't spike. It dropped. That cold, familiar clarity washed over her, a sensation she hadn't felt in 5 years. Since she left the department, she had been Sarah Miller, the history teacher who organized the recycling drive and graded papers on weekends. She had buried the operative she used to be under layers of beige cardigans and school board meetings. But if they had found her, the quiet life was over. She pulled back onto the main road, merging into the morning school traffic. The Tahoe stayed with her until the school zone, then peeled off, parking in a spot that offered a direct line of sight to the faculty entrance. They weren't arresting her, they were watching her. She parked the Volvo and grabbed her leather satchel. As she walked toward the brick building, the wind bit at her face. She felt the weight of eyes on her back. She paused at the heavy metal doors, glancing at the reflection in the glass. She looked tired, harmless, a perfect camouflage, but inside the pocket of her cardigan, her hand curled into a fist, the muscle memory of violence twitching in her knuckles. Why now? Had a file been declassified? Had an old enemy talked? As she swiped her ID badge, the reader beeped red once before turning green. A glitch or a trace? Sarah stepped into the warmth of the hallway, the smell of floor wax and teenage angst hitting her. The bell rang, screaming through the corridor. The hunt was on, and Northwood High was no longer just a school, it was a kill box. The fluorescent lights of room 304 hummed with a low-frequency buzz that usually gave Sarah a headache by third period. Today, the sound seemed to mask something else. The students were filing in, shuffling feet, zippers on backpacks, the endless murmur of gossip. Sarah stood by her desk, arranging her lesson plans on the Civil War, but her mind was mapping the room's acoustics. If they were parked outside, they were inside too. That was the protocol. Electronic surveillance always preceded physical contact. "Morning, Mrs. Miller," said Leo, a junior with messy hair and eyes that looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He dropped his heavy bag near the radiator. "Good morning, Leo. Book open to page 142, Sarah said, her voice steady, maternal. She watched him sit. Leo was observant, smarter than his grades showed, and lately he had been anxious. While the students read silently about the Battle of Antietam, Sarah moved. She didn't look like she was searching, she looked like a teacher tidying up. She straightened the globe, she adjusted the blinds. Then she dropped her pen. It rolled under her heavy oak desk. As she knelt to retrieve it, her hand didn't go for the pen. It swept the underside of the desk surface. Her fingers brushed against something cold and plastic, no larger than a quarter. A transmitter. It was adhered with professional-grade epoxy near the leg joint. She retrieved her pen and stood up, her face a mask of calm. The device was active. She could feel the faint heat coming from the battery pack. They were listening to her history lecture. The door opened. Principal Vance walked in, his smile too bright, his suit too expensive for a public school administrator. "Sarah, just doing a walkthrough," Vance announced, his voice booming, "checking on the new curriculum standards." Sarah's eyes locked onto his. Vance was sweating slightly, despite the air conditioning. He glanced at the ceiling vent, then back to her. He wasn't looking at the students, he was checking the perimeter. "We're just covering the Union blockade, Mr. Vance," Sarah said, stepping between him and her desk. "Is there something specific you need?" No, keep up the good work."
Vance lingered a second too long, his gaze shifting to the laptop on her desk. "Oh, by the way, the IT department needs to update the security software on all staff computers tonight. Leave yours logged in." He left. Sarah looked at the transmitter under her desk, then at the door. Vance wasn't just an annoying boss, he was an asset, and he had just given the order to compromise her digital footprint. She wasn't being watched by the government, she was being set up by the school.
Lunch period was the only time the hallway cameras had blind spots, obscured by the chaos of hundreds of students moving toward the cafeteria. Sarah didn't go to the staff lounge, she went to the library. The librarian, Mrs. Gable, was busy shushing a group of freshmen, giving Sarah clear access to the server closet in the back. She didn't need a key. A tension wrench and a hairpin from her bun popped the lock in 4 seconds. Inside, the room was cool, filled with the drone of server towers. She plugged a flash drive into the main admin port. This wasn't a standard USB, it was a ripper, a tool she had kept from her days in counterintelligence. It would copy the access logs without tripping the firewall. "Mrs. Miller?" Sarah froze. She pulled to drive, pocketed it, and turned. It was Leo. He was standing in the doorway, holding a graphic novel, looking terrified. "Leo," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "you shouldn't be back here. This is restricted." I saw you pick the lock." Sarah stepped closer, assessing him. He wasn't going to run. He wanted answers. "What are you doing here, Leo?" "I was hiding," he admitted, looking at his shoes. "From Coach Holloway. He caught me in the gym office yesterday. I saw something on his computer. Names, social security numbers, but not ours. Fake ones." Sarah's tactical mind shifted gears. Holloway was the wrestling coach, big, aggressive, and universally disliked by the academic staff. If he was running data, he was the muscle. "What did Holloway say to you?" Sarah asked, her tone hardening. "He said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I never graduated. He said he'd plant drugs in my locker." Leo looked up, tears in his eyes. "Mrs. Miller, there were guys in suits talking to him. They gave him an envelope. Thick." Sarah gripped Leo's shoulder. "Listen to me carefully. Go to class. Do not speak to Holloway. Do not look at him. If he approaches you, you come straight to my classroom. Do you understand?" Leo nodded. Are you a cop?" "Go to class, Leo." He ran off. Sarah looked at the server stacks. Vance and Holloway were working together. The federal surveillance outside wasn't looking for a terrorist. They were likely a corrupt faction of the agency, using the school infrastructure to launder identities, or sell them. And Leo had just become a loose end. Sarah checked her watch. She had 2 hours before school ended to weaponize the information on the flash drive. The quiet teacher was gone. The operator was back online. The dismissal bell rang, releasing a flood of teenagers into the afternoon rain. Sarah waited until the parking lot thinned out before heading for her car. The black Tahoe was gone, but that didn't mean she was alone. She threw her bag into the passenger seat of the Volvo and started the engine. As she backed out, a figure stepped out from behind the equipment shed, blocking her path. She slammed on the brakes. It was a man in a gray trench coat, soaked to the bone. He didn't move. Sarah recognized the stance instantly. Feet shoulder-width apart, hands clearly visible but ready to draw. It was Agent Miller. No relation, just a coincidence that had been a running joke in their old unit. She rolled the window an inch. "You're burning me, Alex." "You were burned the moment you took this job, Sarah," Alex Miller said, his voice gravelly. He didn't look at her. He scanned the roof of the school. "You need to walk away. Tonight. Pack a bag, drive west, don't stop until you hit the Pacific." "I can't do that. There's a kid involved." "The kid is dead weight. You don't know what you're stepping into. This isn't a simple identity ring. It's Project Acheron. The school is a holding tank for relocating high-value assets children, but the list got sold." Sarah's blood ran cold. Sold to who? Cartels, foreign intelligence,
anyone who wants leverage on a federal witness. Someone inside the school is auctioning off the students' locations. We're trying to contain it, but we don't know who the broker is. It's Vance, and Holloway is the enforcer. Alex shook his head. Vance is a puppet. He's too stupid to run encryption like this. There's someone else. Look, my team is moving in at 0600 tomorrow to sanitize the site. If you're here, you're collateral damage. I'm giving you a head start because I owe you for Budapest. You're not here to arrest the broker, Sarah realized, watching his eyes. You're going to scrub the operation. You're going to erase the school records. What happens to the witnesses? What happens to Leo? Alex stayed silent. That was the answer. A sanitize order meant no loose ends. I'm not leaving, Sarah said, rolling up the window. Sarah, Alex yelled, slapping the glass. Don't be a hero. You're a history teacher now. Act like a history teacher. Sarah gunned the engine and swerved around him. She wasn't going home. She had to get the evidence off the premises before Alex's cleaner crew arrived in the morning, and she had to save Leo from being sanitized.
The hallway was dark, illuminated only by the red glow of the exit signs. It was 7 p.m. Sarah had told the night custodian she was staying late to grade midterms. In reality, she was moving toward the gym complex. She wore sneakers now, her footsteps silent on the linoleum. She needed Holloway's keys. The server room had a secondary physical lock that she couldn't pick without triggering a silent alarm, but Holloway, as head of athletics and security liaison, had the master override. She found him in his office, feet up on the desk, watching football on a tablet. The room smelled of stale sweat and deep heat rub. Sarah knocked once on the open door frame. Holloway jumped, dropping his feet. Jesus, Miller, you trying to give me a heart attack? He stood up, his bulk filling the small room. He was 6'4", pure muscle, and had a mean streak a mile wide. I need the master keys, Coach. I left my gradebook in the records archive. Holloway's eyes narrowed. He stepped around the desk, blocking the exit. Records archive is off limits after hours. You know the rules. Vance sent out a memo. I didn't get the memo, Sarah said, standing her ground. She looked small compared to him, but her posture was relaxed, dangerous. You've been asking a lot of questions, Sarah, Holloway sneered, stepping into her personal space. Talking to the weird kid, Leo, checking vents. You think you're smart? He reached out to grab her arm. Maybe I should escort you to your car. Sarah didn't retreat. As his hand reached for her, she intercepted his wrist. She didn't squeeze, she pressed her thumb into the radial nerve cluster. Holloway gasped, his knees buckling as his arm went numb. Listen to me, Sarah whispered, her face inches from him. The quiet teacher facade evaporated, revealing the predator beneath. I know about the payments. I know about the student files. If you touch me again, I will collapse your windpipe before you hit the floor. She released him. Holloway stumbled back, clutching his arm, terror in his eyes. He had expected a frightened librarian. He got a special forces operator. The keys, she commanded, holding out her hand. Trembling, Holloway reached into his pocket and dropped the keyring into her palm. Stay in this room, Sarah ordered. If you pick up that phone, I'll know. She turned and walked out, leaving the giant man hyperventilating against his filing cabinet. She had the access. Now she had to find the proof before the federal cleanup crew wiped Northwood High off the map. Sarah moved quickly to the records room, the heavy master keys jingling softly in her pocket. She inserted the key into the reinforced door of the archive. It clicked open. Inside, rows of metal cabinets held the physical files of every student for the past 20 years. But Sarah wasn't interested in the past. She went to the active transfer drawer, a section reserved for new students. She flipped through the folders. Leo's file was there. But the photo wasn't just a school picture, it was a passport photo. The name listed wasn't Leo Bennett, it was Leonid Volkov, son of a defected Russian cryptographer. Suddenly, the PA system crackled to life. It was Vance's voice, But it wasn't a general announcement. It was directed at her. "Mrs. Miller, please report to the main office immediately. Police are here regarding the missing athletic funds." It was a trap, a crude, hasty frame job to get her into custody. Holloway must have called Vance despite her warning. If she went to the office, the local police, likely in Vance's pocket or misled by him, would arrest her. Once she was in a cell, the feds would arrive and she would disappear. Sarah grabbed Leo's file and stuffed it into her waistband. She heard heavy footsteps coming down the hall from the east wing, police boots. From the west wing, the lighter, rhythmic tread of tactical gear, Holloway's private security goons. She was boxed in. She looked at the ceiling, the drop tiles. It was a cliché, but clichés existed for a reason. She dragged a rolling chair to the nearest cabinet, climbed up, and pushed a tile aside. She hauled herself up into the crawl space just as the door to the archive burst open. "She was just here," Holloway shouted. "I saw her come in." "Clear the room," a police officer yelled. Sarah lay flat on the metal support beams, dust filling her nose. Through the gap, she saw Vance enter. He wasn't looking for her. He was heading straight for the active transfer drawer. "Damn it," Vance hissed. "The Volkov file is gone. If we don't have that file, the buyers walk." "Forget the buyers. The FBI are sanitizing the place at dawn. If she talks to them—" "She won't talk," Vance said, pulling a suppressed pistol from his jacket, something no high school principal should have. "Find her, kill her, make it look like a suicide, stress of the embezzlement accusation." Sarah controlled her breathing. They weren't just selling kids, they were executing anyone who got in the way. She had to get to Leo before they did.
Navigating the ceiling plenum was slow, agonizing work. Wires snagged her clothes and the dust was suffocating. Sarah crawled toward the library, estimating she was above the science wing. She had to get to a phone. Her cell was likely being tracked by the local cell tower, which Vance could access. She needed a landline that bypassed the school's switchboard, the emergency elevator phone in the basement boiler room. She dropped down into the custodial closet near the cafeteria, landing silently. She checked her watch. 9:15 p.m. She moved through the dark cafeteria. The moonlight filtered through the high windows, casting long shadows across the lunch tables. Suddenly, a flashlight beam cut through the darkness, blinding her. "Hold it right there." It was Ben, the night security guard. He was an older man, usually kind, always asking about her weekend. Now he held a taser with a steady hand. "Ben, put it down," Sarah said, raising her hand slowly. "Vance is using you. They're trafficking kids." "I know what they're doing, Sarah," Ben said, his voice sad. "I have a sick wife. The medical bills? Vance pays triple the district rate." "They're going to kill the boy, Ben. Leo." Ben hesitated, the taser lowered slightly. "They said they just needed to return him to his father." "His father is dead. They're selling him to the people who killed his father." Ben's face crumbled. He lowered the weapon completely. I didn't know that. They told me it was a custody dispute." Before Sarah could respond, a single shot rang out. Ben jerked violently and collapsed, a red bloom spreading on his chest. Sarah dove behind a pillar as a second shot chipped the concrete where her head had been. At the far end of the cafeteria, a tactical team in black gear was advancing. These weren't Holloway's thugs. These were the buyers. The cartel extraction team had arrived early. Sarah looked at Ben's motionless body. He had the master keys on his belt. She needed them to lock the school down. She took a deep breath, grabbed a metal lunch tray from a return cart, and hurled it across the room like a discus. The noise drew fire to the left. Sarah sprinted right, sliding across the floor to Ben's body. She grabbed the keys and Ben's radio. "Target acquired in the cafeteria. Female. Hostile." Sarah clicked the transmit button. "This is Miller. I'm the only hostility you're going to find. Come and get me." She ran for the boiler room. It was time to turn the school into a fortress.
The boiler room was a maze of pipes and pressure valves, hot and deafening. Sarah barred the heavy steel door and jammed it with a rusted pipe. It wouldn't hold them forever, but it bought her minutes. She pulled the Volkov file from her waistband. Inside, taped to the back of the photo, was a micro SD card, the ledger. This is what Vance was selling. It wasn't just Leo's location, it was the encryption keys to the entire witness protection relocation database for the Eastern Seaboard. If this got out, thousands of people would die. She spotted the elevator emergency phone. She ripped the casing off and hot-wired the line to bypass the switchboard. She dialed a number she hadn't used in years, a ghost line to the director of the FBI, her old boss. It rang twice. "Report," a voice said, no greeting. "This is Agent 492, reactivation code Phoenix Down," Sarah said rapidly. "I am at Northwood High, code Black. The school is a front for an identity auction. I have the master key. Hostiles are on site. Multiple cartel sicarios. Local law enforcement is compromised." There was a pause. "Phoenix Down? Sarah? We thought you were dead." "Not yet, but I've got a battalion of mercenaries at my door. I need air support and a tactical team. Now." "ETA on QRT is 20 minutes. Can you hold?" "I have a student to protect. I'll hold." She hung up. 20 minutes, an eternity. The door to the boiler room shuddered as a battering ram hit it. They were here. Sarah looked around. She grabbed a bottle of industrial ammonia and a jug of bleach from the janitor's supply shelf. She poured them into a bucket near the ventilation intake that fed the cafeteria and hallways. Chloramine gas. It was crude, it was dangerous, and it was a war crime in most contexts, but this was survival. She turned on the ventilation fan. She grabbed a respirator mask from the safety wall, strapped it on, and climbed the ladder to the steam tunnels. She wasn't just hiding anymore, she was hunting. She had to get to Leo's house before the team realized he wasn't at the school. Wait, the radio crackled. "We have the boy. He was hiding in the gym, moving to extraction point." They had Leo. Sarah froze on the ladder. She reversed course. She wasn't leaving the school. She was going back up.
The hallways were filling with a white, acrid haze from Sarah's chemical cocktail. She moved through the smoke like a phantom, the respirator protecting her while the mercenaries coughed and choked, their eyes burning. She found a mercenary on his knees, retching. She stripped him of his flashbang grenades and his sidearm. She didn't kill him, she just knocked him unconscious with the butt of the weapon. "Extraction point is the football field," the radio squawked. "Chopper inbound." She sprinted toward the gym exits. She burst out onto the damp grass of the football field. The rain had stopped, leaving a heavy mist. In the center of the field, 3 black SUVs were idling. A helicopter was descending, its searchlights sweeping the ground. Vance was there, dragging Leo by the collar. Leo was struggling, his face bruised. Holloway was flanking them with an assault rifle. Sarah checked the magazine of the stolen pistol, 12 rounds, 3 targets, plus the pilot. She clipped the flashbangs to her belt. She needed a distraction. She looked at the stadium lights. The control box was on the pylon next to her. She fired 2 rounds into the transformer box. Sparks showered down, and the stadium lights exploded into blinding whiteness before dying completely. The field plunged into darkness. "Contact!" Holloway screamed, firing blindly into the dark. Sarah moved. She pulled the pin on a flashbang and rolled it under the nearest SUV. The explosion was deafening, disorienting the men near the cars. She closed the distance. She took Holloway out first, a shot to the leg to drop him, then a kick to the head to silence him. Vance panicked. He held Leo in front of him as a human shield, waving his gun. "Stay back! I'll kill him! I swear to God!" The helicopter hovered just feet above the ground, the wash from the rotors flattening the grass. "Let him go, Vance!" Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "It's over. The FBI is 5 minutes out." "I can't go to jail," Vance screamed. He started dragging Leo toward the chopper door. Sarah leveled her weapon.
She had a clear shot at Vance's head, but the wind was unpredictable and Leo was thrashing. She couldn't risk it. She needed Leo to help. "Leo, drop!" she screamed. Leo didn't hesitate. He went dead weight, slumping to the ground. Vance stumbled, his shield gone. Sarah fired. The bullet struck Vance's shoulder, spinning him around. He fell, dropping the gun. Sarah rushed forward, shielding Leo with her body as the helicopter pilot, realizing the deal was bust, pulled up hard, banking away into the night. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, scanning Leo for injuries. I think so," Leo gasped. "You shot the principal." "He gave me a bad performance review," Sarah said, pulling him up. Then, the blinding lights of a dozen federal vehicles flooded the field. The cavalry had arrived. The aftermath was a blur of red and blue lights. Paramedics were treating Leo. Holloway and Vance were being handcuffed and loaded into armored vans. The corrupt cleanup crew had been intercepted on the highway by the real agency tactical teams. Sarah sat on the tailgate of an ambulance, a blanket draped over her shoulders. She had ditched the stolen gun before the agents approached. Alex Miller walked up to her. He looked tired. "You made a hell of a mess, Sarah," he said, handing her a coffee. "I cleaned up your mess, Alex," Sarah corrected, taking the cup. Vance had the encryption keys. "We recovered the drive. The leak is plugged. The kids are safe. We're relocating them again tonight." Sarah looked over at Leo. He was talking to an agent, pointing at Sarah. He managed a weak smile. "What happens to him?" Sarah asked. "He goes into the program. New name, new state. He'll be fine. He's tough." Alex paused. "What about you? You can't be a teacher here anymore. Your cover is blown to hell." Sarah looked at the school building, the broken lights, the police tape. "I liked this job. The hours were good." "Come back to the fold," Alex said. "We need people who can do what you just did." Sarah stood up, dropping the blanket. "No, I'm retired." "Then what will you do?" "There are other schools, other kids who need someone watching out for them." She started walking toward her beat-up Volvo, which was miraculously untouched. "Sarah," Alex called. She turned. "That car following you?" Alex pointed to the spot where the black Tahoe had been in the morning, the one from part 1. "That wasn't us, and it wasn't the cartel." Sarah froze. "What?" Alex opened a file in his hand. "We ran the plates you called in. It's a phantom registration, but we found traces of high-grade military tech in the tire tracks. That car was a drone, autonomous." "Who was controlling it?" Sarah asked. Alex looked at Leo, who was now sitting in the back of a sedan, staring blankly out the window. "We think the boy was. Leo isn't just a cryptographer's son, Sarah. He is the cryptographer. He built the algorithm that cracked the school's firewall. He hacked the drone to watch you because he knew Vance was dangerous. He was vetting you. He wanted to see if you were strong enough to save him." Sarah looked back at the sedan. Leo caught her eye. His terrified expression was gone. He gave her a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. The victim had been the puppet master the whole time. He had orchestrated the leak to force a confrontation, using Sarah as his weapon to take down Vance and escape the school. Sarah smiled, a cold, impressed smile. She got into her car. The game had changed. The quiet teacher drove away, but she wasn't looking at the road. She was looking in the rearview mirror, wondering what else the kid had hacked, and wondering when he would contact her again.